Shalom, my fellow individuals. I plan to cover the original Star Wars Battlefronts, but I found them to not be very interesting to talk about. They're solid games. Battlefront 2's campaign is just the regular maps with objectives slapped on top. However, they're made great by Tamura's voice acting.
When the 501st was finally rotated out of Felucia, Ayla Secura made a point of seeing us off personally, calling us the bravest soldiers she had ever seen. It's a good thing we were wearing helmets, because none of us could bear to look her in the eye.
Plus, some people say they don't do anything in particular amazing, but they're like chicken parmesan with the side of spaghetti. The individual parts are fine, but when you put them all together, they're awesome. Then what's a more interesting Star Wars game to talk about or give thoughts on? The Old Republic. For those of you that don't know, this is a controversial game. There's people that treat it like it's the best thing since sliced bread. Others really hate it. Before I begin, I need to get some disclaimers out of the way, so you can understand my point of view. I'm going to save some of you the time right now. If you do not at least tolerate the MMO design structure thingy, you will not enjoy SWTOR. There's nothing that I or anyone else can say to change your mind. I used to play some MMOs casually when I was younger. However, I never really got into doing PvP, dungeons, and so on. The ones I remember the most were owned or operated by Korean demons from the Shadow Realm, MapleStory, and Dungeon Fighter Online. For playtime, I've put over 100 hours into SWTOR for this video. If I count the time I played before that, I have around 150 hours in total. Still, it's by no means definitive. I highly recommend comparing and contrasting what you and others have to say. With those out of the way, I'm going to look at a game that should not be named. It's time to job and see if Star Wars The Old Republic is strong. Alright, let's start with the character creator. Don't worry about the darkened icons, we'll get to those. For me personally, I'm disappointed that races do not get any special buffs or debuffs, because I think it would add more depth. For example, in the lore, Zabraks are known for being tough people. Doesn't that mean they should take less damage or have more health than the other races? The only thing each race gets is a special animation. However, there are benefits to this. Since the differences are cosmetic, you can play whichever one you like. You don't have situations where you go, I'm making a tank, well, I have to make them a Zabrak for the extra damage reduction. Otherwise, entities of autism won't play with me because I'm not min-maxing like them. I want to make a Force user. I guess I have to make a Miraluka or a Sith Pureblood since their Force powers are stronger. As for the character creation itself, it's fine. You've got several presets for faces, hairstyles, skin color, and so on. Say what you want about the quality of something such as Sims 4, but the character creator in that is great. If SWTOR ever gets a major overhaul or a sequel, I hope they get something at least half as good as that. The last thing I'll say here is a thing I find amusing about Star Wars after growing from a child into a man-child. It's that smugglers are kind of the good guys, and the bounty hunters are kind of the bad guys. If you want to be a certain kind of individual, you could see that as the series saying it's okay to be a drug dealer, or a drug runner, as long as you pay your debt. But someone rounding up criminals for the shekels? That's a bad guy. So once you're in game, you can move around, jump, and hey look! The cash shop is right there! Okay, I'll quickly address the monetization. Players fall into 3 tiers: free-to-play, subscriber, and preferred, which is someone that subscribed before, but not at the moment. There's no beating around the bush. You get treated better as a subscribed or preferred member. I won't sugarcoat it either. If you're not willing to pay, you either have to accept it or not play the game. They know what they're doing too. If you're free to play, you move slower until a certain level. In addition, I don't like that they're double dipping with the subscription model and a cash shop. On the light side, a lot of the restrictions for free members are convenience based. You get to experience all the class stories as well as the first 2 expansion packs. And to be fair, I have seen worse free to play models out there. This could be a gotcha. Anyway, I'll quickly talk about the graphics. Although they are showing their age, I still think some of the stuff here is pretty neat. Look at Nar Shaddaa. The last thing I have to say here is that the maps themselves can be pretty big, so you want to make sure you get a speeder or mount as soon as you possibly can. SWTOR uses MMO-style controls in combat. There's not a lot to say about that, but I'll do what I can. Despite being an MMO, I think this is easy to pick up and play, especially because the game throws out tutorial prompts at relevant points. Smugglers, Imperial agents, consulars, troopers, and inquisitors basically use a mana or stamina bar. I think the Jedi Knight, Sith Warrior, and Bounty Hunter are the most interesting classes to play as. The Knight and Warrior have this fighting game-esque point system that you build up by using certain abilities. You spend those points to perform your special moves. Bounty Hunters have to manage heat. Use too much and you won't be able to use your heat-based moves for a while.
Watch those wrist rockets!
SWTOR follows the Divine Trinity for its classes: tank, damage per second, and healing. Furthermore, the 8 classes are broken up into 2 subclasses. Both subclasses have their own 3 specializations. Some abilities have an arc, others only target one person, and then there's area of effects, AoEs. In addition, every class has a buff they can apply to others. So you have quite a bit of options in how you choose to deal with enemies here. Plus, there's no auto attack. When it comes to MMO-style combat, I think something like WildStar is the peak. Look at it. Look how much attention you have to pay to the positioning and aiming of abilities. I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, SWTOR looks archaic in comparison. However, I still think the combat in SWTOR is fine for what it is. All in all, I found every class fun to play. But I do have to point something out. I didn't find the enemies in the story and regular side quests to be challenging. As with many MMOs and games that follow a similar design, you're going to have to do high-level quests, raids, and so on to get the most out of the combat. While I was making this video, the developers announced a new expansion, which is going to overhaul the combat. So yeah, I might have to do a follow-up at some point. I do have to take a moment to praise the interface editor. Want the game to be more immersive and remove the map? You can do that. Want to see more or less quick bars? Bam! I wish more games had this, it's amazing. As for crafting, I don't have much to say about it. It's a time sink. You send your companions to get crafting materials and to craft the actual stuff. I don't have much to say about the quests here. They're quests. One thing I do have to note is that I think SWTOR has some of the worst video game logic I've ever seen. At least in the regular missions. You're going to encounter instances where the story or game treats enemies like they're a big deal. They get called things like a Republic Elite Squadron or the greatest assassin in the galaxy, and you beat them in under 5 minutes with little trouble. Then there's the payouts where some of them do not represent their scale. Take this one on Coruscant, for instance. You know Coruscant, right? The planet with a bajillion people living on it? This crazy funny man is going to tell you that a thing called thermodraft is going to explode and leak radiation. Thousands of people will die, and that's not even accounting for how much it will cost to repair or replace anything that got damaged or destroyed. You want to know how much you get for stopping Space Chernobyl? 670 credits.
The machines have given me many amazing gifts. Take this one. May it serve you as you have served Thermodraft.
I'm just glad the big guy's gonna be okay.
I am too.
On the Imperial side, there's this mission on Nar Shaddaa where you save members from the Empire and the Hutt cartel from a botched operation. Factions, when combined, have more money and power than a human could possibly comprehend. You get 875 credits. Although this is a group quest, everyone involved deserves, at the very least, their own moon base. When it comes to conversations and other things, you usually have 3 choices. In some cases, since there's only that many, your character can come off as having an extreme case of bipolar disorder. Furthermore, if you're one of those people into role-playing or having an idea about your character in your head, you will have situations where your character will say something based on a decision that you will not be okay with. Besides the regular choices, you also have light and dark options. What's the good and bad choice usually makes sense. Choosing to spare someone's life, and whether or not you should report soldiers for playing with civilian lives, those are fine. However, some of the light and dark options are weird. There's this side quest on the Trooper and Smuggler planet, where someone from the Republic asks you to find missing medicine. Then you find out a cat girl stole it for refugees. And the dark side option is returning the medicine to the Republic. Why can't there be an option to give the troops medicine and ask them to spare some for the refugees? I think this is too nuanced to handle the current system. In this one, the dark side option is to tell a man the truth about his son dying in a disappointing way. Shouldn't telling the truth be the light side option? When you're in group conversations, a random number generator picks which player's choice gets made. It's about time I finally talked about the writing, and I have to be honest. If I covered every instance of good and bad writing that this game has, that I came across, I don't know how long we'll be here. So I'm going to give you the next best thing. Some highlights and things I found interesting. Every class has their own story, and the worst thing I can say about any of them is that they get more entertaining or interesting as they go on. A thing I love about them is that each one is a piece of a larger story. For example, there's a slave revolt happening on the planet Droman Kos. One of the classes gets to find out who started it and why. I found the Imperial Agent storyline to be genuinely moist. You get to go undercover, infiltrate a member of the Hutt Cartel's administration, and get him to side with the Empire. And that's all just in the starter planet. We need more games that deal with spies, or at the very least, intrigue, truth, and deception. It's an untapped goldmine in my opinion. Also, I enjoyed this quest with a journalist on the Trooper and Smuggler planet. She makes a big deal about freedom of speech, but all she really cares about is her bottom line. They even went further beyond and made her assistant the type of person that easily gets swept up in causes. Another thing I love is how many Imperial storylines and side quests involve you committing war crimes. Even the Republic does a few here. Seriously, in this one quest, the light side option is making sure the poison you put in people's water supply kills them fast. I know that someone documented all the war crimes in the Clone Wars animated series. We need someone to do the same thing for the Old Republic. Not a lot of games can say they have a man get betrayed by his cat girl girlfriend so she can kill one of his superiors. That brings me to my next point. Some of the stuff here got a laugh out of me for the right reasons.
I wouldn't mind meeting some like-minded individuals to maybe discuss some wholly legitimate business practices.
Settled into my quarters and fully acquainted myself with the ship. I am at your disposal.
I should probably inspect those quarters, Captain.
You'll find them spotless and in order, my lord. You'll also find that I'm fully trained in all aspects of operating this vessel. I can both navigate and pilot.
If you're half as good at evading obstacles as you are my advances, then my ship is in good hands.
I'm here to do a job, my lord.
Farn told you about my business, and I know you went and blabbed about it to some very important people. And now, I got a mountain of paperwork to do, hearings to go to, people asking questions, and I don't like that.
You can't handle the stress, swallow a grenade. Do us all a favor.
I've seen some people say the Jedi Consular storyline is boring. I'm most likely insane for saying this, but I found the Jedi Knight storyline to be less interesting. From what I've seen of the Jedi Knight, it came off as a typical RPG, JRPG plot of saving the world. Saving the galaxy in this case. I'm not saying the Knight storyline is bad because of this, just that I personally found the Consular storyline more interesting. From what I played, the Consular story is smaller in scale, and you get to deal with a lot of Force shenanigans. I don't have a lot to say about the companions. I thought the ones I encountered were fine. There's only one of them that I have a problem with. Kaleo, the agent's first companion. Without getting into spoilers, she's a psychopath and/or a sociopath. She's also an anarchist. My problem isn't that she's unlikable or unrelatable. Those are writing traps. I'll use two characters from Star Trek Deep Space Nine as an example, Odo and Kira. Kira had her planet invaded and conquered by an alien species, and Odo is a shapeshifter. I don't know about you, but at this time, I don't know of many humans that can relate to either of those. They can also be quite unlikable. Kira can be hot-headed, and Odo is so autistic about law, order, and being by the book, you'd probably want to die if you had him as a boss. I enjoy them because I find them to be interesting characters. My problem with Kaleo is that I don't think she fits with the agent. For me, and the friend I was playing with, we think she came off as being intended for the Sith warrior, but they switched her out at some point. I don't think the intelligence branch of a government would be fine with hiring a person that takes joy in violence and defying authority. Moving on, I did notice some instances of bad writing. If you pick the light side option here, you make this fanatic or extremist quickly see the error of their ways. On Taurus, which is the planet that got bombarded by Darth Malak in the first KOTOR, there's a side quest that wants you to find a cure to a plague, which also existed in the first KOTOR. However, you're not helping make a new cure. You're looking for the same exact cure that was made in the first KOTOR, if you did the light side option there. This is like a story in Japan going, an engineer discovered how to make a real-life Gundam, but they were lost during the bombing of Nagasaki. Tokugawa-kun, despite the fact that we could try making one ourselves, we need you to go to the ruins of where the bomb dropped in Nagasaki and find those plans. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but fine, I'll go with it. This one scene in the Trooper storyline legitimately set off my autism, and I think it's a good display of my problem with the game's writing. For some context, the Republic is at war with these separatists on a planet. You're a Republic sergeant searching for a bomb, and this guy is supposed to know where it is. First of all, why don't I have an option to be a good guy model soldier? Why can't I give this guy some sort of speech or talk with him to change his mind? I don't know, maybe he has a family or people he really cares about, and I can say, hey pal, explosions don't discriminate. If that bomb goes off, it doesn't matter whose side you're on. Second, I looked it up. All these options have the same outcome. The only differences are what your character says and whether or not you get dark side points. Third, why do I not have an option to spare him and question my squad mate for killing someone we could take prisoner? Furthermore, if this NPC does have to die for whatever reason, and I choose to question my squad mate for killing them, then I think the squad mate should give you a KOTOR 2 Kreia-esque speech. You know, something like, a bomb is about to go off, and sometimes we have to make very hard choices that keep us up at night. How do we know they won't try to kill us later? Fourth, I think this whole scene might have to be rewritten. I think the squad mate should already be there, with a gun aimed at the guy. When your character enters, your squad mate should ask what you want to do with them, and your three options are 1. Light side good guy speech, 2. Neutral, do whatever, I'll follow your lead, and 3. Dark side torture him. After you pick either option and he tells you where the bomb is, you should then get an option to spare him. With all that said, despite my problems with this scene, I did enjoy the rest of what I played from the Trooper story. I'll finish talking about the writing by talking about something I found interesting from the Sith Warrior storyline. The character Vemrin. Here's the context. You're a Sith, going through the Sith Academy so that you can become a Sith and do Sith things. Vemrin is your rival. They could have made him some arrogant, I'm better than you loser character, but no, they do more than that with him. In contrast to your character, Vemrin isn't there because he's some Force prodigy or the son of a great Sith Lord. He's there because he earned it. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into this, but in a way, your character is everything wrong with the Sith. Well, besides being evil, of course. Nepotism. You're there because you knew someone high up, or someone high up took great interest in you, so you were given things that other people had to work for. Vemrin had to claw his way up. Elitism. Vemrin proved himself, but because you're the protagonist and are greater in the Force than he is, you get treated better. Finally, Sith politicking. He was going to become the apprentice of a big Sith Lord, but you take his spot. Vemrin sends people to kill you and tries to undermine you at every point he can. Of course, what he's doing is wrong, but I completely understand where he's coming from and why he is the way he is. And to top it all off, you kill him in the back of a dark tomb where probably no one will find or care too much about his dead body. I can't believe an MMO, a game usually designed to fleece as much time and shekels from you as possible, has something like this in it. The only thing I wish they changed was giving you the option to not kill him. That way, you could help him come to peace with and understand that some people just get dealt a bad hand in life, and that sometimes their own actions can make things worse. The last thing I'll talk about is about this game being an MMO. A lot of people that played it will probably call it weird, that it feels like a single-player game that had an MMO stapled to it. I agree with that. In fact, I think the Old Republic was a bit ahead of its time, but in the worst way possible. I'll do my best to explain what I mean. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is basically what you could call a pseudo-MMO. You have a hub world where you can interact with other players, as well as go on missions with them. There's a special currency you can acquire to buy items. Characters can do emotes. Abilities have to be set to something resembling a hotbar so that you can use them. It's an MMO in all but name, and you can play it offline. Looking at SWTOR and this side by side is a surreal experience for me. It's as if I'm catching glimpses of an alternate dimension. If the Old Republic was made similar to Xenoverse 2, kept the current writing quality, and the combat was like a modified Jedi Academy with more RPG mechanics, who knows? Maybe the Old Republic would have not been so hated. Maybe a lot of the people that hate it might have called this theoretical game one of the best Star Wars games ever made. In the end, I think SWTOR is okay for what it is. I think the best way to experience it is with at least one friend. That way, you can experience each other's class stories together. Plus, if you're worried about this game ever dying, there's a good chance, through the sheer power of Star Wars and regular autism, that people are going to keep this alive for as long as they can. If you don't like this game, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to not enjoy something. As an example, I could never get into the Earthbound or Mother series. I'm not going to be one of those people that say if you're unhappy with the direction a series took, you have to grow up or whatever. That's ridiculous. Also, I'm going to say something that may sound harsh, but I do not mean it that way. At this time, I don't think a real KOTOR 3 is going to be made anytime soon. If you're the creative type, and there's a series you love, but it hasn't gotten a new entry in years, or you're disappointed with the latest entry, it might be time to take matters into your own hands. Create something new, incorporating what you loved from the original series. Paper Mario is a great example of this. Shiggy Diggy Miyamoto, when asked about making a proper follow-up to the Thousand-Year Door, put down his cigar, inhaled some magic powder off the Master Sword, then turned to the interviewer and said, no. So then some fans of Paper Mario made Bug Fables. That's the video. If you're still on the fence about this, I do have one more thing to show you. The Old Republic lets you respect a woman, and if you're playing a female, you can flirt with your character's potential papi chulo about it.
You probably think I'm some dumb farm boy, huh? Head full of old-fashioned ideas?
I don't think you're dumb. You're actually kind of sweet.
Oh, well, thanks, Captain. I like you too.
This might actually be one of the best games ever made.
This is Forward Recon. Do you copy? HQ! Blast. Thought I had him. You look like you know your way around a blaster. Want to be a hero?
What's a hero make these days,